Night had fallen on the lonely planet of Varela. Cold winds moved through the empty streets, carrying dust and small stones with them. Far away from the bright city lights stood an old orphanage, a tall, cracked building with broken windows and fading paint. Inside that place, children once laughed and played, but now it felt more like a prison at the back door of the orphanage. A small alien girl sat alone on the steps. Her name was Lyra. She was only 6 years old, thin as a stick, and wearing clothes that were too big for her tiny body. Her skin gave off a soft blue glow whenever she felt scared. Tonight, she glowed brighter than ever. Lyra hugged a small blanket around her shoulders. She was shivering, not only from the cold but from fear. She could hear the voices of the orphanage staff from behind the door. They were arguing loudly about her again. "She shouldn't stay here," one voice said harshly. "She is different," another voice complained. "Her glowing skin upsets the other children." "And strange things happen around her," a third person added. "Lights flicker. Doors open. Machines break. She brings trouble." Lyra closed her eyes. She didn't want to hear these words anymore. She had heard them many times before. No matter how quiet she was, no matter how careful, people always thought she was dangerous. She wasn't dangerous. She was just. Lonely. Inside the orphanage office, the arguing grew louder. Lyra sat still waiting. Her small hands trembled. The glow from her skin reflected on the metal door behind her. She hoped someone would come out and tell her everything was okay. But instead, the door opened suddenly and one of the staff members stepped out. His face was cold and angry. "Get up," he ordered. Lyra quickly stood. Her glowing blue eyes lifted toward him. "You can't stay here anymore," he said without emotion. "We tried. But you are too strange. The other children are scared of you." Lyra felt tears forming, but she held them back. She tried to speak. I don't mean to scare anyone," she whispered. "I can try harder." "It's not enough," the man said. "We're done. Go." Before she could understand, he pushed her out of the door and shut it behind her. The lock clicked. The lights inside turned off. Lyra was alone outside in the cold, dark night. For a long moment, she did not move. She just stared at the closed door. She had nowhere to go. She had no family, no friends. The orphanage was the only place she knew, and even that place did not want her. A small sound escaped her throat, a mix of sadness and fear. She sat down on the ground, hugging her blanket tightly. Her glowing skin flickered weakly like a dying star. Why don't they want me?" she whispered to herself. Silence answered her. Only the wind moved around her, pushing dust across the empty courtyard. Lyra felt more alone than she ever had in her short life. She looked up at the sky. Varela's night sky was dark purple with thin silver clouds floating like smoke. Far above, ships moved between stars, leaving trails of light behind them. Lyra loved watching those ships. Whenever she looked at them, she imagined people inside who were kind, who laughed, who hugged each other. She wondered what it felt like to be loved like that. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then another. Soon her face was wet with silent crying. Suddenly, the ground beneath her vibrated. A low humming sound filled the air, deep and powerful. Lyra gasped and looked around. Something bright was coming from the sky. A ship. A real ship was landing near the orphanage. Its engines glowed white, lighting up the whole area. Dust flew everywhere. Metal plates unfolded from the ship's sides as it slowly lowered itself onto the ground. Lyra stood and took a step back, covering her eyes from the strong light. The ship touched down with a heavy thud. For a moment, everything went silent again. Then the ramp of the ship began to open with a slow hiss. Lyra's heart raced. She did not know who was inside. She did not know if they were kind or dangerous, but someone was coming. A tall shadow appeared at the top of the ramp. A human shape. A traveler from far away. He stepped forward into the light. Lyra took a breath, half hope, half fear. She didn't know it yet, but this moment would change her life forever, because the human who had just arrived was about to meet the abandoned alien child glowing softly in the dark. The ramp of the ship continued to lower, releasing a soft white mist that flowed across the ground like fog. Lyra stood completely still, her small hands gripping her blanket. Her glowing skin flickered nervously. She had never seen a human up close before. She had only heard stories that said humans were strong, brave, and sometimes dangerous. The figure stepped fully into the night light. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket with dust on the sleeves, as if he had traveled far. His hair was a little messy, and there were tired lines under his eyes. But his face was calm, and his eyes looked gentle, not sharp or cruel like the orphanage staff. His name was Evan Hawley, though Lyra did not know that yet. Evan looked around confused. When he saw the old orphanage building, he frowned. When he saw Lyra alone in the cold, his expression softened even more. He slowly walked toward her. Lyra took 2 steps back, afraid. The glow on her skin brightened. Evan noticed this and stopped a few meters away, raising his hand slightly to show he meant no harm. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." His voice was calm, warm, very different from the angry voices she had heard earlier. Lyra lowered her blanket a little but didn't speak. Her eyes stayed locked on him. Evan glanced at the orphanage door behind her. It was shut tight, lights off. He also noticed the small pile of belongings next to her, just a blanket and a tiny cracked toy. He knelt down slowly so he wouldn't frighten her. "Are you alone out here?" he asked. Lyra didn't answer. She dropped her gaze to the ground, afraid that if she spoke, he might leave like everyone else. Evan followed her eyes and saw her thin hands shaking. He felt something heavy in his chest, a pain he recognized. He had been alone once too, many years ago. "Hey, it's all right," he said again. "I'm not going to shout at you." Lyra finally looked up at him. Her voice was small and shaky. They don't want me inside." Evan's jaw tightened with anger, not at her, but at whoever had left a child alone in the cold. He looked toward the building again, and at that moment, the back door swung open. 2 orphanage workers stepped outside, talking to each other. When they saw Evan, they stopped. "Oh," one of them said sharply. "A visitor." Evan stood up, brushing dust off his jacket. "I saw this girl outside," he said. "Is everything all right?" The workers exchanged annoyed looks. "She's a problem," one said. "You shouldn't go near her." "A problem?" Evan repeated. "She's just a child." "No," the other worker snapped. "She isn't a normal child." They stepped closer and lowered their voices, but Lyra could still hear every word. "She breaks things. Lights flicker around her. She glows. She scares people. We can't keep her." Evan looked back at Lyra. She was staring at the ground again, as if trying to make herself smaller. He took a step closer to the workers. "So you're throwing her out? In the middle of the night?" "It's not your business," the first worker replied coldly. "She's not safe to adopt. No one wants her." Evan felt his stomach twist with anger. He turned and walked back to Lyra, but slowly, not to startle her. He knelt again so he could look her in the eyes. "Do you want to leave this place?" he asked gently. Lyra blinked. She wasn't sure what he meant. "Leave?" she whispered. Double quotes, "Yes." He gave her a small smile. "Come with me. You don't have to stay here." Her heart pounded. No one had ever asked her what she wanted. No one had ever offered her a choice. Behind Evan, the workers laughed. "You can't just walk off with her," one said. "She is trouble. She'd destroy your ship." Evan didn't look at them. His attention was fully on Lyra. "I don't care what they say," he told her softly. I care about what you feel. Lyra's glowing skin brightened with hope, but also fear. What if I hurt you? She whispered. What if my glow is bad? Evan shook his head. You don't look dangerous to me. You look scared. And cold. And tired. Her blue eyes glistened with tears. He slowly reached out his hand. Lyra stared at it. No one had offered her a hand before. No one had ever waited so patiently for her answer. She lifted her small hand, shaking, and moved it toward his. Their fingers were inches from touching. Suddenly, the orphanage alarm rang out sharply. Red lights flashed around the building. The workers shouted, "Stop! She must stay here." Evan stood up quickly, placing himself between Lyra and the men. "It's okay," he whispered to her, but Lyra didn't feel safe. Her glow brightened wildly, flickering like a pulsing star. Something dangerous was coming, and Evan Holly didn't know it yet, but by reaching out to comfort a scared, alien child, he had just stepped into a storm far bigger than either of them could imagine. The alarm screamed through the night, loud and sharp. Red lights flashed around the orphanage walls like angry eyes. Lyra covered her ears, shaking. She had heard this alarm many times before, but never because of her. Evan turned and stood in front of her, placing himself between Lyra and the two workers who were now marching toward them. "Turn that off," he shouted, but they ignored him. The taller worker pointed at Lyra. "She cannot leave. She is unstable. She caused damage." The other added. Lyra's glow pulsed brighter with every frightening word. She tried to shrink behind Evan, but the fear made her power stir inside her like a storm waking up. Evan looked down at her trembling hands. "It's all right," he whispered. "You're safe with me." But the workers weren't stopping. "Step away from the child," the taller one demanded. "You don't understand what she is." "What she is? Not who she is." Something broke inside Evan when he heard those words. He clenched his jaw and took Lyra's hand gently. "We're leaving," he said. The workers jumped forward to block him. Lyra gasped, and her skin flashed a sudden bright blue. The lights on the orphanage wall flickered violently. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. The workers froze. Evan didn't. "Come on," he said, pulling Lyra with him toward the ship. But the orphanage staff rushed after them. "Stop right now," one shouted. "She belongs to the corporation." "Corporation?" Evan didn't have time to ask. He had to get Lyra away. As they ran, the wind pushed against them from the force of the ship's cooling engines. Dust swirled into the air, making it hard to see. Lyra stumbled on a loose stone and almost fell, but Evan caught her and lifted her into his arms. "You're doing great," he said, trying to calm her shaking. "Just hold on." Behind them, the workers began calling for security reinforcements. "They're running. Don't let them reach the ship. She's dangerous." Lyra buried her face in Evan's jacket. "I didn't mean to make them angry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I know," Evan said. "None of this is your fault." The ship's ramp was only a few meters away when a spotlight from the building snapped on, blinding them. More alarms rang. The workers sprinted, waving sticks and stun rods. Evan shielded Lyra with his body. "Go back inside," he yelled at them. "You're terrifying her. That thing is a hazard." The shorter worker shouted. "Give her to us. She has a name." Evan roared back. Lyra's glow surged again, this time brighter than before. The metal pipes on the orphanage wall rattled. Loose wires sparked. The shorter worker froze and stepped back. "She's going to explode." "She's not exploding," Evan said firmly. "She's scared." He ran up the ramp and into the ship with Lyra pressed against his chest. Inside, the lights were dim and warm. The ship smelled of metal and old travel bags. Evan placed Lyra in the co-pilot seat. "Stay here. Don't move," he told her. "You're safe." Her wide blue eyes stared at him, glowing with fear. "Are they going to take me?" "No," he said. His voice was steady. "I won't let them." Outside, the workers reached the ramp and started banging on the ship's side. Evan rushed to the control panel. He flipped switches. The engines hummed back to life. The ramp began to close, but before it shut completely, the taller worker jumped inside and tried to grab Lyra. "No!" She cried. Her glow burst like a shockwave. The lights inside the ship flickered. The man was thrown back against the metal wall. Evan pushed him down and slammed the emergency release button. The ramp sealed shut with a loud hiss. The worker was thrown out onto the ground as the door closed. Lyra curled into the seat, shaking uncontrollably. Evan knelt beside her. "You did nothing wrong," he said gently. "You were protecting yourself." "But I hurt him," she whispered. "He attacked you," Evan said firmly. "You only pushed him away." She looked at her glowing hands as if they belonged to a stranger. Evan rested a hand on her shoulder. "Listen to me. Your powers don't scare me. You don't scare me." Outside, security forces began gathering. Sirens blared louder. Bright beams hit the ship. Voices shouted orders. They were surrounded. Evan jumped back into the pilot's seat. "Hold tight," he told Lyra. She grabbed the seatbelt with shaking hands. "What will happen?" Evan gave her a quick, confident smile. "We're leaving this place. Together." The engines flared, blasting light across the courtyard. The ship lifted, just a little. Blaster shots hit the hull. Metal rang loudly. Lyra gasped and reached for Evan. He held her hand for a second. "Don't be afraid." Then he pulled the throttle. The ship shot upward, breaking through the clouds, leaving behind the orphanage, the workers, and the life Lyra never wanted. But as the ship climbed into the dark sky, Lyra whispered in a trembling voice, "They will come for me. They always come." Evan looked at her glowing reflection in the window. "Let them try," he said quietly. "I won't let anyone take you." And so their escape began, but the real danger had only just started. The ship drifted through the quiet darkness of space, far away from the noise of alarms and shouting guards. For the first time in her life, Lyra sat in a place where no one was yelling at her, judging her, or locking her behind doors. But she still trembled, her glowing skin flickering like a weak candle. Evan guided the ship smoothly, glancing at her every few seconds to make sure she was okay. He could see she was frightened, overwhelmed, and exhausted. "You're safe now," he said gently. His voice was calm, steady like a warm blanket around her. Lyra hugged herself and whispered, I've never been on a ship before." Evan smiled a little. "Well, this one's not fancy, but it's reliable. Like me." She didn't know what reliable meant, but she felt that he wasn't lying. After hours of flying, the ship reached a small moon colony, Evan's home. It wasn't a big city. It wasn't shiny or loud. It was peaceful. A handful of houses shaped like half circles, glowing softly in the dark, surrounded by silver-colored sand. When the ship landed, Lyra hesitated to move. "Come on," Evan said softly. "Let me show you your new home. If you want it. If you want it." No one had ever given her a choice like that. Lyra stepped down the ramp, holding her blanket close. The air smelled of metal and soft dust, not harsh chemicals like the orphanage. The ground was cold, but the cold felt soft, not cruel. Evan led her to his home, a small dome with a round door and warm yellow lights inside. "It's not much," he said, opening the door, "but it's safe. And quiet, and it's yours too now." Lyra blinked in surprise. Inside the home were things she had only seen in pictures: shelves with small objects, a table with cups, a couch with soft fabric. Everything looked warm. Everything looked kind. She stepped inside slowly, afraid she would break something just by touching it. Evan noticed her hesitation. It's okay. Nothing here is more important than you. Her glow brightened. Not from fear this time, but from something new, hope. He led her to a small room with a round bed. A blanket shaped like stars, and a window showing the moon's quiet surface. This will be your room. Unless you want a different one. Lyra touched the star blanket with trembling fingers. This is for me? Evan nodded. All yours. She sat on the bed, sinking into the soft mattress. It felt like clouds. She had never had her own bed before. In the orphanage, she slept on a hard cot with a broken pillow. Her eyes watered, but she quickly wiped them. Are you hungry? Evan asked. Lyra nodded shyly. He brought her a warm bowl of soup. She ate slowly, carefully, making sure not to spill anything. You can eat faster, Evan laughed gently. It's okay. No one will punish you for making a mess. Lyra froze. How did he know? She whispered. At the orphanage. If I made noise. Or spilled food. Evan's expression darkened with anger. But when he looked at her, his face softened again. That won't happen here. After eating, Lyra explored the house slowly. She found a shelf filled with small tools, old ship pieces, and a few photos of people she didn't know. Evan explained them one by one. He even showed her how to turn on the small lights by tapping the wall gently. She laughed when one light turned purple by accident. Evan chuckled, liking the sound of her laugh more than he expected. As days passed, Lyra learned little things she had never experienced before. She learned how to drink warm tea without burning her tongue. She learned how to fold clothes. She learned how to sit on a couch and watch the stars through the window. She learned she didn't need to glow to be seen. Evan noticed her even when she didn't shine. And Evan learned things about Lyra too. He learned she could sense energy in the walls. She knew when a machine was about to fail. She could feel emotions around her. She always knew when Evan was sad or tired. Sometimes she even predicted danger a few seconds before it happened. But one night, something changed. Lyra woke suddenly, gasping. Her glow flickered like lightning. Evan rushed into her room. Lyra, what's wrong? She hugged her blanket, shaking. Her eyes were wide with fear. I felt something. She whispered. Like what? Evan asked gently. She pointed toward the sky outside the window. They're looking for me. Evan's heart dropped. Who? He asked. Lyra's glow dimmed to a frightened blue. The hunters. The ones who always come. They won't stop. They'll find us. Outside, in the silent darkness of space, something moved, something dangerous. And Lyra knew one thing with certainty. Her past wasn't done chasing her. For several nights, the moon colony stayed peaceful. Evan worked on small repairs. Lyra learned new things, and the quiet dome home felt safe, almost like a real life. But Lyra's fear didn't disappear. It lived inside her like a cold shadow waiting. Every night she looked at the stars and whispered, they will come. Evan always said, they won't find us. But even he couldn't ignore the worry in her glowing blue eyes. One calm evening, Lyra was sitting on the floor, drawing shapes with glowing fingers. Evan was fixing a small drone on the table nearby. Everything felt normal. Until the drone suddenly sparked and died. Evan frowned. That's strange. It had full power. Lyra stopped drawing. Her glow flickered sharply. Evan, she whispered, voice unsteady. Something is wrong. Before he could ask her what she felt, the house lights flickered once, then twice, then went completely dark. The entire colony lost power. Evan stood quickly. Stay behind me. The dome trembled as a deep, distant hum began to shake the ground. Not thunder. Not machines. Engines. Strong ones. Hunters. Evan stepped to the window and moved the curtain slightly. His heart tightened. 3 black ships were descending from the sky, shaped like sharp wings. Their engines glowed red, and symbols of a private corporation flashed on their sides. Searchlights scanned the colony like hungry eyes. Lyra curled into the corner, shaking. "It's them," she whispered. "They found me." "How?" Evan muttered. "We didn't send signals. We didn't register you. But Lyra knew. They can track me. They always could." The first ship landed at the edge of the colony. The ground shook violently. Colony lights tried to turn back on, but the hunters jammed the power grid, drowning the moon colony in darkness. Evan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Listen to me. No matter what happens, I won't let them take you." But Lyra's fear only grew. "They want me because of my glow. Because of my power. They say my kind is rare." Evan squeezed her hand. "And they think they can own you. But they're wrong." Outside, armored figures stepped out of the ship's tall aliens wearing dark suits with glowing helmets. Their voices echoed through amplifiers. "This is Sector Retrieval Unit. We seek the escaped subject. Hand her over, and no harm will come." Evan whispered sharply. "Subject? No, she's a child." Lyra's glow brightened, trembling like a fragile flame. Footsteps approached the dome house. Heavy, metallic, and slow like predators taking their time. Evan pulled Lyra into the small back room. "Stay here. Hide behind the crates." "No," she whispered. "They'll hurt you. Not if you stay hidden." She grabbed his jacket tightly. "Don't go." Evan brushed her hair gently. "I have to protect you." He stepped out of the room just as the front door shook violently. Boom! The entire house jumped. Dust rained from the ceiling. Boom! A second hit. The door was bending inward. Lyra covered her mouth to stop herself from crying out. Evan stood in front of the door with nothing but an old metal tool in his hand. But he stood tall, fearless. "Open the door," a robotic voice ordered outside. "Give us the girl." "She's not a thing," Evan shouted back. "She's a child." There was silence outside for a moment. Then crash. The door burst inward, and two armored hunters stepped inside with glowing batons and electric nets. Their helmets scanned the room with red beams. Evan charged forward. He swung the metal tool at the closest hunter's helmet. The strike made the creature stumble, but the other hunter grabbed Evan and slammed him against the wall. Lyra couldn't stay hidden anymore. Her fear burst out of her body like light. She ran from the back room. Her whole body glowed so bright it lit up the whole dome. Her hands shook violently, energy between her fingers crackling like tiny stars. The hunters froze. "There she is!" one shouted. Evan coughed, pushing away from the wall. "Lyra, no, stay back." But Lyra wasn't scared for herself anymore. She was scared for Evan. One hunter raised the electric net, and that was a mistake. Lyra screamed. Her glow exploded into a wave of blue light that surged across the room. The tables rattled. The metal walls shook. The hunters were thrown across the dome, crashing into the far wall. Evan shielded his face from the blast. "Lyra!" She stood in the center of the room, breathing hard, skin glowing like a small sun, frightened and powerful all at once. The hunters groaned, standing up slowly. Their armor was cracked, but they weren't finished. "The subject is unstable," one said. "Capture immediately." Lyra backed away, shaking. "I didn't mean to, Evan. I can't control it." Evan rushed to her. He knelt beside her and put both hands on her shoulders. "You're okay," he said softly. "You didn't hurt me. You saved me." "But they're still coming," she cried. "More of them." Evan looked out the window. She was right. Dozens of red lights were moving through the colony. "They're surrounding us," he whispered. Lyra clutched his jacket. "What do we do?" Evan pulled her into his arms. "We fight together." And outside, the hunters prepared their final assault. The peaceful colony was no longer quiet. War had arrived. The moon colony shook as more hunter ships landed outside. Red searchlights swept across the domes like hungry eyes searching for prey. The colony residents locked themselves inside their homes, whispering in fear. They knew the corporation's hunters never came for anything small. Inside Evan's damaged dome house, dust floated in the air. The walls were cracked, and pieces of furniture lay broken on the floor. Lyra stood in the center of the room, shaking from the energy she had released. Her glow had dimmed a little, but it was still bright enough to light the entire room. Evan held her shoulders gently. "Lyra, look at me. You're okay. I didn't want to hurt them," she whispered. "I was afraid. They touched you. I thought I was losing you." "You didn't hurt me," Evan said firmly. "You saved me." But Lyra didn't seem convinced. She stared at her hands as if they were dangerous weapons. "What am I?" she whispered. Evan opened his mouth to answer, but he didn't get the chance. The hunters outside shouted orders. "Deploy the next unit. Surround the target dome. Do not let the subject escape." Evan's jaw tightened. He moved to the control panel near the window, a small device he had built to scan energy signatures. "I need to know what they're tracking," he said. Lyra stayed close behind him. Her glow flickered anxiously. The device beeped loudly, displaying patterns of moving light on the screen. Evan stared at them, shocked. "You're producing a rare energy field. It's biological, not mechanical. They're tracking your light waves, Lyra. Your glow is like a signal." Lyra felt tears forming again. "So it's my fault. I led them here." "No," Evan said sharply. "It's not your fault. They should never be hunting you in the first place." Before Lyra could answer, the dome shook again, this time stronger. A hunter shouted from outside, his voice booming through an amplifier. "Evan Hale, step out and surrender the subject. Resistance will be punished." Lyra's breath hitched. "They know your name." Evan let out a slow breath. "Because they scanned the ship when we escaped. They're serious." He turned away from the window. "I'm not giving you to them. You're a child, not a weapon." One of the hunters activated a device that crackled with electric blue energy. "Break the dome open. Move." Evan grabbed Lyra's hand. "We need to leave now." He led her toward the back exit, but before they reached it, the door burst open. 3 more hunters stormed in. Their helmets glowed with red sensors. Their suits were thick and reinforced, built to resist shockwaves and extreme pressure. These were elite units. One of them pointed at Lyra. "Subject L13, species Lumira. Power unstable. Capture immediately." Lyra stumbled backward. "That's me, L13. "No," Evan said. "Your name is Lyra." The hunters didn't care about names. They raised their electric nets and advanced. Lyra screamed, and her glow brightened uncontrolled. The lights in the ceiling burst. The wall panels trembled. Even the air felt charged. Evan stepped in front of her. "You want her? You go through me." One hunter lunged. Evan dodged, grabbed a metal bar from the debris, and hit the hunter's helmet as hard as he could. The suit cracked, sparks flew, and the hunter fell. Another hunter grabbed Evan and slammed him into the floor. Lyra screamed his name. "Evan!" Her glow surged. The entire room filled with blue-white light. The energy pulse blasted the hunters backward. Their armor hissed and sparked. Evan crawled back toward her, coughing. "Lyra, breathe. Don't push too hard. I can't stop it." She cried. "It hurts." Her glow flickered wildly. She held her head as more energy tried to break free. Tears streamed down her face. Evan pulled her into his arms, even as the energy burned lightly against his skin. "Look at me. Look at me, Lyra." She lifted her glowing eyes, trembling. "You're not a monster," he whispered. "You're strong. You're rare. And you're good." The energy inside her settled just a little. The hunters outside reorganized. "Prepare the containment sphere. Take the subject alive no matter the damage." Evan looked around desperately. The house was falling apart. The hunters were closing in again. They had nowhere else to run. He cupped Lyra's face gently. "They want you because of your power. That means you have something they fear." "Fear?" She whispered. Double quotes. Yes, Evan said. Your power is not your weakness. It's your strength. You just don't know how to use it yet. More hunters stormed into the colony. Their searchlights turned the quiet moon into a battlefield. Lyra stared at her glowing hands. What if I can control it? What if I protect you like you protect me? Evan smiled softly despite the danger. I believe you can. A sudden explosion shook the dome. The roof began to collapse. Evan grabbed Lyra and shielded her. Lyra, now! Use your power to protect us. She closed her eyes tightly. Her body glowed brighter. Brighter. A barrier of pure blue energy burst outward, forming a dome around them. The collapsing ceiling hit the barrier and rolled off harmlessly. Evan stared in awe. You created a shield. Lyra's voice trembled but grew stronger. I can do more. Outside, the hunters prepared for their final attack. Inside, Lyra stood tall, glowing like a small star. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of her power. For the first time, she was ready to use it. The blue energy shield shimmered around Lyra and Evan like a living bubble of light. Pieces of the broken roof slid off the glowing surface and fell harmlessly to the floor. Outside, the hunters regrouped, stunned by what they had just witnessed. Inside the shield, Lyra stood taller than she ever had. Her glow was bright, steady, and calm, not wild and frightened like before. Evan, though bruised and exhausted, looked at her with something stronger than fear. Pride. You did it, he whispered. Lyra trembled, not from fear now, but from the strength of her own power. I didn't know I could make this. You can make even more, Evan said softly. You're stronger than they think. Her glow brightened at his words. For the first time in her life, someone believed in her, not because of what she was, but because of who she was. Outside, the hunters started shouting orders. Activate full suppression mode. Break the barrier. Retrieve the subject at any cost. Evan checked the window. More ships were landing. More armored hunters marched forward with heavy steps. Their suits glowed with red lights representing full power mode. The colony trembled. Evan. There are too many, Lyra whispered. I know, he said. But we're not going to run. Not this time. Lyra looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. Then what do we do? Evan placed his hand over hers. We protect our home. Her glow warmed, becoming soft around the edges. Our home. Yes, he said. This is your home now. And I'm your family. Lyra's heart thumped. The word family felt like a star blooming inside her chest. Before she could say anything more, the hunters opened fire. Bright red blasts struck the energy shield. The dome shook violently. The shield cracked like thin ice, sending waves of shimmering light across the walls. Lyra cried out. I can't hold it. There are too many. Evan touched her shoulder. You're not alone. I'm with you. She nodded, tears glowing on her cheeks. Outside, the hunters prepared a giant suppressor, cannon designed to break through anything. Evan saw it and felt panic rise in his throat. They're going to hit us with everything they have. Then, I need to try something bigger, Lyra whispered. Bigger? She closed her eyes. You trust me, right? With my life, Evan said. Lyra stepped forward to the center of the collapsing dome. She raised her hands. Her body glowed brighter until everything around her turned blue. The energy shield expanded. Outward like a wave. The hunters fired the massive suppressor cannon at the same moment. The red beam collided with Lyra's growing shield, and the entire colony erupted in light. For a moment, nothing could be seen. Blue and red light clashed like two storms. The ground shook. The air crackled. Evan shielded his eyes. Lyra stood alone in the center of the storm. Her small feet planted firmly. Her glowing eyes open. her fear burning away into strength. "I am not your subject," she screamed. "I am not your experiment." The light burst from her like an explosion. A shockwave rippled across the colony, hitting every hunter and ship. The hunter's armor cracked open. They were thrown backward like rag dolls. Their weapons shut down instantly. The suppressor cannon shattered into pieces. The shockwave rolled outward, sweeping across the moon's surface like a blue sunrise dot. Then it faded. Silence. Dust settled. The lights dimmed. When Evan opened his eyes, he saw something he had never seen before. The hunters were defeated, every single one. The ships were disabled or thrown onto their sides. Their red lights flickered weakly. The hunters themselves lay on the ground, groaning or unconscious. Lyra collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Her glow softened to a faint, warm blue. Evan ran to her and caught her before she fell completely. You did it," he whispered. She leaned into him, exhausted. "Did I hurt the colony?" "No," he said, looking around. "You saved it." Small lights inside nearby homes turned on as frightened families peeked out of their doors. People stepped outside, staring at the fallen hunters, then at the small glowing girl in Evan's arms. A soft cheer started from somewhere. Then another. Then the whole colony erupted in applause. "Is she one of us?" a child asked. "She saved us," another voice said. Evan held Lyra close. "Yes, she's one of us." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but joy. "For the first time. They don't hate me." "No one will hate you again," Evan said. Later that night, after the hunters were taken into custody by colony security, Evan sat at the small table in his home. Lyra sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket. He placed a small pad on the table and handed her a stylus. "Lyra," he said softly, "there's something I want to ask you." She blinked. "What is it?" Evan pushed the pad toward her. "These are the adoption papers. I can make it official. If you want to be my daughter." Lyra covered her mouth. Her glow brightened softly like a sunrise. "Do you want me?" she whispered. Evan smiled. "I chose you the moment I saw you outside that orphanage." A tear slid down Lyra's cheek, shining like a drop of light. She took the stylus with shaking hands. "I want to stay," she said. "I want to be your family." She signed her name, Lyra Hall. Her glow shined brighter than ever, warm, calm, and finally happy. In the quiet light of the moon colony, a human and an alien child had formed something stronger than blood, a family born from courage, kindness, and the belief that even the smallest spark can change an entire world.